Essay pleasure to accompany you in today. They ever seen pictures of overcrowded ships in India? You might think that. But no, elsewhere, the situation goes even further, where people risk their very lives just to secure a spot on a train speeding through impoverished rural areas and cramped cities. Welcome to Bangladesh, where traveling by train is not just a mode of transport but a battle for survival. Here, trains carry people not only inside the passenger compartments but also on the roof, clinging to the sides, and even squeezed into narrow gaps between cars. A train meant for a few hundred can be packed with thousands, stretching like a living human chain through harsh landscapes. Moreover, this is a place where people must grasp at chances of survival in the shadow of poverty, injustice, and despair. Men willingly immerse themselves in pitch black sewers without protective gear, only to sift for bits of gold washed away from jewelry workshops. That's hard to believe, yet it. All these scenes are just the tip of the iceberg in Bangladesh, known by the sad title of the world's largest brothel. What has made Bangladesh so terrible? Is this the predetermined fate of a Muslim country? Bangladesh shocked the world by legalizing prostitution. The government protects and manages this industry as a means to boost the economy. Currently, the country has about 100,000 sex workers, including girls as young as 7 years old. Bangladesh has an area of about 147,600 square kilometers, nearly half of Vietnam's, but a population of 170 million, double that or half. The population density of Bangladesh is 1,265 people per square kilometer, ranking 7th in the world. Among countries with populations over 100 million, Bangladesh has the highest population density. The state religion of Bangladesh is Islam, with about 148 million followers, making it the third largest Muslim country in the world. Bangladesh's history is tied to British colonial rule. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757, the region was controlled by Britain. In the latter half of the 19th century, Bangladesh became a province of India, after Britain withdrew from the Indian subcontinent due to religious differences. India was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. Bangladesh became part of Pakistan, known as East Pakistan. In 1971, East Pakistan declared independence and changed its name to Bangladesh. The images the world often associates with Bangladesh are sweatshop factories, overloaded trains, trash-filled streets, and extreme poverty. Bangladesh is one of the few countries with living conditions worse than India's. Everything you think you can only see in India can be found in Bangladesh. These two countries seem like siblings sharing issues of pollution, poverty, and overpopulation. Even in the 21st century, the United Nations remains powerless against Bangladesh's poverty. The country has been listed among the world's least developed nations for over 50 years. In foreign relations, Bangladesh pursues a peaceful diplomacy and heavily relies on international aid. Economically, the country mainly depends on agriculture and the garment industry. Every morning, the capital Dhaka awakens in its characteristic haze. Hassan, a rickshaw puller, is preparing for a new workday. To ensure everything runs smoothly, he checks and maintains his rickshaw daily. Hassan's rickshaw weighs up to 90 kilograms, and with passengers, the load increases significantly. And if he encounters a slope, pedaling becomes extremely difficult. But for him, these things have become a familiar part of life. As difficulties dawn. Because Bangladesh has too many cheap laborers, even if Hassan pedals continuously for 5 kilometers, he only earns about 40 taka, equivalent to roughly 3,000 Vietnamese dong. Every day, he has to work tirelessly just to earn enough to support his family.
Although Dhaka covers only 360 square kilometers, there are millions of rickshaws operating on the streets.
Meanwhile, the entire city has only 60 traffic lights, and most of them don't function properly. According to the 2020 population report, Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, is the city with the highest population density in the world, with 60,277 people per square kilometer, 30 times that of Hanoi, and a total population of 21.7 million.
This is a city with almost no traffic rules,
where cars move with great difficulty.
Traffic jams occur daily, lasting from 4 to 6 hours is normal. Hassan is a rickshaw puller. Today, among his passengers is an office worker who shares that to avoid being late for work, he has to leave home very early because no one knows when the traffic jam will end.
As one of the cities with the most chaotic traffic in the world, rickshaw pullers like Hassan must always maintain intense concentration.
This strenuous work causes irreversible physical damage.
Each day of hard labor, he only earns about €3, equivalent to 80,000 Vietnamese dong, just enough to help his family get by day to day. With no other choice, Hassan has to work all 7 days a week, with no days off.
He considers this a terrible job because every day he has to pull heavy luggage and wait for customers. That's no different from a beast of burden, but if he doesn't. With a weak economy and underdeveloped education, more and more Bangladeshis flock to Dhaka. To make a living, some work as porters, others become rickshaw pullers, or do other manual labor. Cheap labor and increasingly fierce competition make Hassan's life almost without an escape.
This is the largest pilgrimage festival in Bangladesh held in Dhaka, pushing the city's transportation system to its limits.
The Dhaka pilgrimage is truly a rare spectacle. Trains arriving in Dhaka will be packed with people, not only inside the carriages but even on the roofs, creating an extremely spectacular scene. This is the second largest religious gathering in the world, only after the Hajj pilgrimage in Mecca. Away from the hustle and bustle of the capital, before dawn, devout Muslims are busy preparing for the sacred journey. Pilgrimage is one of the important duties that every Muslim
must perform at least once in their lifetime, if they have sufficient financial means.
All believers, whether male or female, strive their best to participate. Ayman and her companions prepare for the challenging journey, bringing enough food and supplies for 5 days. Not because there's nothing to buy, but because when they reach Dhaka, the large crowds make finding necessities extremely difficult. Shops and hotels are all packed, so clothes and food must be prepared in advance. In large-scale pilgrimage events like this, the main means of transport are Bangladesh's old trains. Due to poor economic conditions, many people had to save for months to afford the pilgrimage. More affluent people like Ayman booked train tickets several months in advance. When everything was ready,
she and her friends arrived at the station very early. If they come late, the seats might be taken by others, and there's even a risk of not being able to board the train. Inside the overcrowded carriages, passengers scramble for every seat, with arguments happening everywhere.
But this is only the first starting point.
Throughout the journey, the train will stop at many stations to pick up more people. This year, the number of participants is larger than in previous years.
A young man in a red shirt was lucky to get a seat, while the less fortunate had to stand the entire long journey.
If everything goes smoothly, the journey will take about 6 hours. Although the trip is arduous, when the train departs, the joy of soon participating in the pilgrimage
helps those on board forget their fatigue. For many Muslims, this is not only their first pilgrimage,
but also the first time they have left their home.
That's why relatives and friends come to see them off. Currently, Dhaka is still 200 kilometers away,
and the train will have to stop at 15 stations before arriving. Due to the ancient railway system and overloaded operations, the train frequently encounters problems.
No one can accurately predict the arrival time. Ayman and her companions devoutly pray, hoping the journey will go smoothly. Ayman says that all Bangladeshis dream of participating in the pilgrimage. But with this arduous journey, the elderly and the sick can almost never fulfill their wish.
Although the carriages are packed with passengers, making movement and rest extremely inconvenient.
Some windows and doors are broken, allowing better air circulation.
This railway line was built in 1917, during the period of British colonial rule.
But since then, there has been almost no modernization.
As an experienced pilgrim who has participated in 3 pilgrimages, Doha, a friend of Elon's, I decided to take advantage of the time before the ship got too crowded to go buy some snacks.
Although you brought food, it was meticulously packed and inconvenient to take out.
Although the dining area is only a few buildings away, getting there is a challenge in itself. In such conditions, finding a seat inside the train carriage is equivalent to second class on a high-speed train.
If you can sit comfortably, it's no different from causing harm.
But the reality is, passengers with seats are also squeezed tightly like sandwiches. With a few people, a cut of bamboo in the same place. The hallway was packed with people. Just looking through the screen, you could feel the suffocation. Doha had to weave through every gap, trying to get past each row of customers standing shoulder to shoulder.
Sometimes, to move forward, you had to get very close to others. No different from the reluctant hugs between strangers.
Here, many people can endure hunger, but if they need to use the restroom, that becomes a prolonged problem.
The restroom was also packed with people, and not everyone could even get out after going in. Some passengers could not bear it and soiled their clothes. It sounds unbelievable, but this is the reality on the overcrowded trains during the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. It is no coincidence that the Dhaka Pilgrimage Festival is called the Train Festival. Throughout the journey,
I only had passengers getting on. No one got off until we reached the final wall of Dhaka city. After struggling to lead the crowd but still unable to make further progress, Juhan decided to give up the idea of finding the dining cabin. But right then he met you. I had just stopped at a small thorn along the road, and Juhan could step down from the current building, avoiding the crowd to buy some food before returning to the train. This is truly a perfect solution. The moment he stepped onto the platform, Juhan felt as if he had been freed from the stifling confinement of the train carriage. The pilgrim crowd brings business opportunities for local small traders. The small, humble house seemed full of people, with the sound of laughter constantly rising.
The dishes served are mainly simple foods such as fruits, curry puffs, corn cakes, samosas, and other fried items.
With just 5 dong, less than 1,000 Vietnamese dong, you can buy a full meal.
Many of the vendors here are children, some as young as 7 years old.
A boy named Atticur was also among a crowd of delivery people, trying to sell all his food before the train left the station. You have a younger brother and a younger sister. Your mother passed away long ago, and now you and your father, a rickshaw puller, are the family's sole breadwinners. The ship wouldn't stop for long, so Atticur had to make use of every moment to sell as much as possible.
While outside, the boy was racing against time. Inside the train, Duha was still struggling to find his seat.
New passengers continuously boarded the train car, making the space even more cramped. The young man, being agile, did not choose to squeeze inside but decided to climb straight onto the roof of the train. Compared to the cramped and stuffy cabin, sitting on the roof of the train seemed like a much more airy option. However, this also harbors many reasons, as during the journey, the number of passengers following the ship will continue to increase.
S roof gradually became a luxury ticket that wasn't.
For devout pilgrims, overcoming all difficulties to participate in the pilgrimage is a worthy endeavor.
When the whistle blew, the train continued to roll its wheels.
The ship's deck was only about 2 meters wide, with an arched shape and a slightly sloping surface, lacking any railings or protective measures. Those sitting on the roof must maintain intense concentration. If they doze off or if it rains, the risk of falling is very high.
The greatest danger is when the train passes through low bridges or narrow paths.
Thanks to the reminders from other passengers, the cameraman traveling with the group luckily avoided a dangerous situation. But not everyone can be so lucky. Every year, many people still die from falling off train roofs. Though everyone knows this well, they have become too accustomed to the daily grind. Compared to those inside the boat, the people sitting on the roof weren't much more comfortable. If they need to use the restroom, they can only wait until the train stops.
If you had to choose between standing on the mast in a battleship or sitting on the dangerous roof of the ship, what would you choose? Leave your answer in the comments section.
Although sitting on the roof of the train is illegal, due to overcrowding and lack of means, this ban becomes a meaningless regulation. Before, even the most reckless drivers would turn a blind eye to this situation. Most people are well aware of the risks, so no one dares to recklessly linger.
But as the train continued moving and more people sought spots on the roof, the tension and danger of the journey were not over.
However, besides the legitimate passengers on the train, there was another group, the rooftop vendors.
They stood on the narrow train roof, beside goods, weaving through the crowd to sell each item. Though accustomed to the fear of heights after years in the job, for them, this remained extremely arduous work. Many villages along the railway line are located in remote areas with few employment opportunities. So the daring individuals willing to endure hardship chose this work to make a living.
Osama, a 24-year-old vendor, had just sold out his stock of fried corn cakes in the train car.
But because the car was too crowded, he couldn't get off before the train left the station. With no room to move, he decided to climb out the window to get onto the train roof. At the connection area between the locomotive and the car, there was an iron ladder he planned to use to climb down to the ground.
Each morning, Osama and his mother prepare fried corn cakes, then go to the train station to sell.
This work is not only dangerous but also doesn't earn much money.
Today, thanks to the large number of passengers during pilgrimage season, he sold out quickly, earning 160 haka, equivalent to about 13,000 Vietnamese dong.
When the train left the station, its speed was still slow, only about 30 kilometers per hour. But Osama understood that he couldn't hesitate.
The longer he delayed, the less chance he had to get off the train. And if he missed it, he would have to wait until the next station, dozens of kilometers away.
The return train would only come the next day. If he didn't want to wait, he would have to walk home.
After hurriedly saying goodbye to the reporters, Osama ran toward the locomotive to climb down the ladder.
Finally, he jumped down safely, just escaping the accelerating train. Meanwhile, the train full of pilgrims still had a very long journey ahead before reaching Dhaka. For the passengers inside, the journey remained full of hardship. Though confined on the train in suffocating conditions, perhaps the rickshaw pullers in Dhaka suffered even more. They appeared to be free, but the truth was they had to work non-stop to survive.
In Lardha State, to support their families, rickshaw pullers had to carry passengers continuously from morning until night. Some days they made dozens of trips, regardless of rain or shine.
This strenuous work quickly destroyed their bodies.
After just a few years in a job, many suffered serious leg and neck injuries, losing their ability. The average lifespan of a rickshaw puller is only about 40 years.
And due to frequent traffic accidents, very few could live out their full lives.
Hassan had been doing this work for 3 hours straight, and now he felt exhausted. After each tiring ride, he returned to his resting spot for a while. Wanting to save more money to send home, he didn't rent a room, but stayed in a small room provided free by the rickshaw garage owner who sold cake.
Inside were only a few sets of clothes and a thin blanket.
Hassan had to support his wife and 2 children. He didn't dare rest even for one day.
For poor people like him, life was a repetitive cycle with no way out. If a man lost his ability to work, his family would fall into destitution.
Many rickshaw pullers in Dhaka had wives and children but couldn't afford to rent housing.
They were forced to live on the streets in the city's slums.
Currently, about 40% of Dhaka's population lies concentrated in thousands of slums.
Among them,
Kalai is the largest area with a density reaching 322,000 people per square kilometer. Hassan considered himself fortunate not to have to bring his family here.
He wanted his wife and children to suffer, didn't.
Thanks to his hard work, Hassan had sent both children to school and they were doing well academically.
But other children in the slums weren't so fortunate.
For poor children in Ladakh State, going to school was a luxury.
In Dhaka's largest slum, one could see countless children wandering with nothing to do.
They wore old, torn clothes, gathered in groups, playing or wandering through the market looking for leftover food.
Their parents couldn't afford to send them to school. These children were like blank papers fallen into mud, drawn into bad habits like theft and fighting. Like their parents before them, these children have no future. According to the 2022 UNICEF report,
33 million children in Ladakh State. More than half live in poverty. Approximately 450,000 children are deprived of their childhood and have no chance of a bright life.
Among these, 30.1% are street children, worrying daily about food and shelter.
The literacy rate among extremely poor children is very low, with only 71.8% unable to read or write.
Not only children,
But women and child laborers in that state also endure harsh working conditions.
many are forced to work 15 hours a day but receive meager wages, about 2 taka, equivalent to 500 Vietnamese dong.
About 82.9% of street children experience violence, and 49.8% are abused at their workplaces.
Some children make a living by collecting garbage,
with no guarantees day after day.
Another pressing issue in Ladette State is child marriage.
This is the country with the highest child marriage rate in Asia, with 1/3 of girls forced to marry before age 15.
In poor families, daughters are seen as a burden because parents must provide food, clothing, and dowry when they marry.
Thus, many girls are pressured to marry early to ease the family's financial strain.
Reflecting on his life, Ha-san feels his children are fortunate. He can only call home once every 2 months, as an international call is a luxury for a rickshaw puller like him. Ha-san hasn't been home for a long time, but this time he has good news. He told his wife he would soon visit her and their children. He confided that when his daughter grows up, he will quit pulling rickshaws, as it's a looked down upon job.
To ensure his daughter has a happy marriage and isn't despised by her in-laws, he will this.
In Bangladesh, no one wants a father-in-law who is a rickshaw puller. But for now, Ha-san must continue peddling, striving to earn money for his daughter's dowry.
If in Vietnam, the groom's family prepares the betrothal gifts when marrying.
In Bangladesh, all financial pressure falls on the
bride's family. Pressure weighs heavily on Ha-san's family.
But in Bangladesh, this burden is much greater for women. S status in her husband. Families who can provide a generous dowry will see their daughters have an easier life after marriage. Therefore, many
to borrow money or even sell all assets just to afford their daughter's dowry,
hoping to secure her a good marriage. In Bangladesh, dowries mainly consist of gold, and in old Dhaka,
Tazim Baza Gold Market is the city's largest center for trading, crafting, and refining gold, with over 3,000 goldsmiths working at.
As the sun sets, prayers broadcast from loudspeakers mark the end of a bustling day in the gold district.
But not only goldsmiths make a living here, it also creates another, more unique profession, which is panning for gold from sewers.
At 9 p.m., when the city sleeps, 3 men led by Ghazi begin their work. In the dim streetlight, they enter the alley behind gold shops, as the daily gold loss is minimal. So they only do this job once a month on the 15th.
Also, because the process emits a terrible smell, they can only work at night to avoid disturbing others.
Some in the group lift the manhole cover, and immediately a foul stench rises. It's a mix of garbage, household waste, and chemicals from gold shops accumulated over a month.
For an ordinary person, one whiff is enough to remember for a lifetime.
But for Ghazi and his teammates, they've long grown accustomed to it. When struggling to survive, the stench is no longer a concern. Gold lost during crafting drifts into the air as dust or falls into wastewater.
These tiny gold particles eventually flow into the sewer system, mixing with the sludge. To collect them, the first step is to remove the dirty water layer on top. They use buckets to scoop up the water and dump it directly onto the street. The air in the alley instantly becomes more.
1. Nearby residents quickly closed their windows to avoid the foul smell. 2.
After removing the wastewater, the new layer of sewer sludge was revealed. 3. But to retrieve them, someone had to go down into the sewer. 4. This task fell to Shalom, the youngest member of the group. 5. Smiling, he took off his shirt, took a deep breath, and crawled down into the sewer opening. 6. Shalom's job was to use his feet to compress the sludge, making collection easier. 7. He recounted that the first time he went down into the sewer, he almost suffocated from the stench.
8. But now, with just a cigarette, he could endure many hours down there without complaining. 9.
After many hours of work, the sewer sludge was finally cleared. 10. Shalom climbed out from the sewer opening, washing himself briefly with some. 11. Only when he returned home could he take a proper bath. 12. By this time, it was almost dawn, and the work was completed. 13. The result of their night of wading through sewers was 3 basins of thick sludge, full of garbage, feces, dirty water. 14. But there might also be a small amount of gold mixed. 15. The process of filtering gold would continue for 16. The first step was to spread out the sludge, filter out the wastewater, and collect the remaining. 17. When a basin of sewer water only had a thin layer of sludge left, they began extract. 18. Nazi had been doing this work for 30 years. 19. Initially, he was disgusted by his job, thinking it was no good. 20. But when he first extracted gold from sewer sludge, he changed his mind. 21. In a small room serving as a laboratory, they began extracting the gold. 22. The filtered sewer sludge was mixed with strong acid to corrode impurities, leaving. 23. When the acid reacted with metal, it released toxic fumes, damaging lungs and. 24. But Pazzi and his teammates were too accustomed. 25. After the impurities were dissolved, they added mercury and a solution to create an amalgam mixture. 26. An alloy of gold. And 27. To obtain pure gold, they had to heat this compound, evaporating the mercury. 28. The extremely toxic mercury vapor could cause brain and liver damage, but they had no protective equipment. 29. After a series of filtering and refining processes, a basin of sewer sludge ultimately left only a bit. 30. Nazi estimated it was worth about $15, equivalent to $370. 31. Based on data from 2013, the average monthly income of people in the state of 32 was only about 700,000 Vietnamese. 33. After many days of work, each person in the group only earned about 34. But when Nazi brought the piece of gold to the old. 35. The shop owner inspected it carefully and continuously barred him down, claiming the gold had low purity. 36. After weighing and measuring, the shop owner finally agreed to buy it for $11, equivalent to $200. 37. Crawling into sewers, breathing foul smells, exposure to toxic chemicals. 38. All of that only exchanged for $4 per person. 39. This is precisely the plight of the poor in the state of Ladate. 40. They are forced to trade their health and lives to earn meager money. 41. But more sadly, the amount of gold in the sewers is decreasing. 42. And there are nights of work where they can't even earn $5,000. 43. Because the amount of gold in the sewers is decreasing, the number of people working in gold. 44.
Currently in Dhaka, only about 50 people continue this work.
45. Despite having to work hard in a toxic environment, all 3 people in Dazi's group do not complain. 46. They clearly understand that this work will 47. Possibly causing them to get sick and not live.
48. But that no longer matters.
49. For them, the biggest disease is poverty. 50. Only through these efforts can they send their children to school. They hope their children will have a future different from their parents.
After a long day, Ghazi's work is still not finished.
Returning home, he continues working with his wife and daughter until 11 p.m. Their family makes a living by putting strings into paper bags, earning €2, equivalent to about 70,000 Vietnamese dollars.
His wife says that since both of them are uneducated, they had to accept this hard life. Do you want their children to suffer the same fate, so they?
If finances permit, they even want their eldest daughter to continue her higher education. Their young son feels fortunate to be able to go to school and dreams of becoming a businessman so he can take his family abroad for travel. Like many other poor countries, the cost of living in Bangladesh is very high,
while workers' incomes are pitifully low.
For example, in 2013, the cost of medical examination at the country's best hospital reached 130,000 Vietnamese, while the average worker's income was only a few $100,000 per month.
That's also why Ghazi has to devote all his family. Returning to the train carrying Muslim pilgrims on their way to Dhaka.
After a long journey, they're just one station away from their destination. But the closer they get to the capital, the more people crowd onto the train, creating unprecedented chaos. At each stop, hundreds of people climb onto the train, competing for every small space. The station master is almost helpless, only able to remind passengers without tickets to go to the
But this reminder is merely a formality. Their most important task now is to try to minimize accidents.
Before the train departs, the station master continuously announces warnings for everyone to pay attention to safety. But because everyone wants a spot on the train, they use every means to climb aboard.
An old man on the train took a young man in a red shirt seat, making him angry. It turned out that the seat belonged to his friend, but because the friend went to the bathroom, the seat was taken.
After some argument, the old man understood the situation and voluntarily left to find another spot at it.
Amid the chaos, a group of quick-witted young men discovered a money-making opportunity.
They provided ladders to help those who couldn't find seats inside their carriages to climb onto the roof. For just 20 taka, about 4,200 Vietnamese dons, a person could climb onto the roof and find a seating position. Due to high demand, the initial price quickly faced fierce competition.
From 20 taka, it dropped to 10 taka, and finally 6 people only had to pay a total of 30 taka to be helped onto the roof. But when the train was about to depart, the chaos reached its peak.
Some other passengers had paid but still couldn't find a spot on the roof. As the train prepared to depart, police had to intervene to ensure safety. The ladder renters hurriedly packed up their equipment and brought their customers down to the ground. If caught, they wouldn't only lose income but also have their ladders confiscated. So they had to retreat quickly.
After the chaotic minutes, some were happy to have found seats, while others were sad to have missed the train. The remaining passengers stood on the platform, waiting for the next train.
To control the crowd, police didn't hesitate to push over eager people away from the tracks. One police officer told reporters that although it looked chaotic from the outside,
in reality everything was under control and Bangladeshi people were very rule-abiding. Meanwhile, other trains hadn't departed yet but were already packed. Even the spaces between carriages were filled. This is the familiar scene of the Dakar Pilgrimage Festival, attracting millions of Muslim pilgrims from across Bangladesh and the world.
When the festival ends, the flow of people pours out of the city, creating an equally massive migration scene.
The underlying cause of these poverty images remains economic underdevelopment.
Currently, Bangladesh is the least developed among the 6 South Asian countries.
Dakar is also listed among the world's
most polluted cities. Poverty has pushed society to the brink of collapse.
Once the richest region in South Asia, but today, Bangladesh has fallen seriously behind. Disasters such as train accidents, large protests, and even fires in the temple area are evidence of the ongoing instability.
Can a beautiful license overcome this process to move forward, or will it forever sink into the vortex of poverty and crisis?
Only time can answer this question. How do you feel about today's video? Please leave your opinion in the comments section.
Please subscribe to the Shadow_Archives channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the latest. And now, goodbye and see you again.